Although lines in 3ds Max are officially considered as shapes, and in that could very easily have been included in the Creating 2D Shapes video in this title, I've instead decided to dedicate a completely separate video to the topic of drawing lines due to all the different considerations that one needs to keep in mind when making them. Like with all the other flat 2D shapes that Max provides, lines are primarily created with the intention of converting them into a three-dimensional object by means of one of the many different modeling techniques the program offers. In addition to that, though, lines will many times serve another purpose, that being as a way to create a path or track for something in your scene to follow along. That something many times being an object, but it could also be a light, or as we'll discuss in an upcoming video, a camera, which you could then use to drive your viewer around or through a project. In this video, we'll simply concentrate on the techniques that you need to know for creating lines. With my front view full screen, I'll head to the command panel, click on the Shapes tab, then head down to Line. Now, when drawing a line, what you do with your mouse then determines how that line ends up looking. Each time you click, it's like setting a stake along a rope. That rope then being able to change shape or direction as you continue drawing. Now, what you do with your mouse once you click is a major factor. If wanting to create a straight line, you'll simply click, let go of your mouse, then pull away. If you instead want to draw more of a curved line, once you click, you're going to want to hold the mouse down as you then drag to the side. So it's what you do with the mouse after you click that then determines the shape of your line. Let's try this. We'll go to the upper left-hand corner, click, then pull away. This will set our first vertex, then drawing the line from that location. Let's now go to the middle of the screen, click, let go, and push away diagonally. Let's do that a couple times, each time clicking with your mouse, letting go of the left mouse button. As you do that, you'll notice that all your lines are remaining straight. Now watch how this differs. This time when you click, hold the mouse down, then begin dragging to the side. This will curve the line, that curvature now being controlled by what you do with your mouse. When you're happy with the curvature behind the last vertex, let go and continue drawing. Now check out the difference between letting go of the mouse and pulling away and holding it down and then dragging. So bottom line is, the shape of the curve that you're drawing is directly related to what you do with the mouse after you click. When you're done drawing the line, to complete the operation, you can either right-click or simply hit the Escape key in the upper left-hand side of your keyboard. This time, let's draw a capital Z. Now we're talking about a whole lot of straight lines, so when you click, let go of your mouse, then continue drawing. I'm going to start mine at the top of the Z on the upper left-hand side. I'll click, let go, and pull to the right. I'll now go diagonally to the left, clicking again, pulling straight to the right, clicking one last time, then completing the command by right-clicking. There's your straight lines. Let's try something else. Delete this one. This time around, we're going to try something that has not straight corners on it, but more of curved or rounded corners, like the letter O. I'll again start at the top of my letter, pulling to the left. Now this time, when setting that second vertex along the left-hand side, I'll click, then drag my mouse. Now as I drag, I'm not going to watch where the cursor is on the screen. I'm instead going to go behind the last vertex that I set. You'll notice that the shape of the line in that area will change if you move your mouse left to right, or back up and down. When you're happy with the curvature set behind the vertex, you'll let go and continue drawing more toward the bottom. Setting that vertex, I'll again click and drag, watch the shape of the line, then let go when I'm happy. Up the right-hand side, click and drag again, watching behind the vertex that I last clicked. I'll let go of the mouse, and then I'll finish things up at the top. When done with that, I'll right-click or again hit Escape. Let's go ahead and delete that, and we'll try drawing one more letter, this time one that has both straight areas and curved areas, like the letter R. For that, I'll start right in the middle of the window, up against my heavy black line that goes up and down. With that line in mind, I'll be drawing the left-hand side of my capital R. I'll start down at the bottom, click, let go of my mouse, then pull straight up the line. Once I'm at the top, I'll click, then let go again. Now for the round part of the R, I'll move a little bit more to the right. I'll click, and this time drag my mouse. Now again, as I'm dragging, I'll look behind the last vertex that I set, waiting for that curvature to match what I'm looking for. When I've got that in place, I'll let go. I'll move back toward the line on the left, click again, let go of the mouse, then pull down to the bottom right. When I'm happy with the way things look, I'll set that last vertex, then right-click to complete the command. It's going to take some practice, but with practice, you'll be getting better as you go. Let's go ahead and delete that and we'll try something else. If ever drawing a line and getting close to the side of your viewport, you can always recenter your cursor within that view by simply typing I on your keyboard. I'll start in the middle, then head to one of the edges on the viewport. Having now run out of real estate, I'll simply type I. That centers my mouse in the view, and I can continue now drawing my line. Try it in a different direction. When you're on the edge of the view, type H, and you'll see how things center up. Now, as a side note, that eye centering command also works when drawing 3D objects, so keep that in mind. While still in the line command, you can remove the last vertex that you set by hitting the backspace on your keyboard. And once you've done that, we'll right-click to complete, we'll delete the line, then recenter our view by typing Z. Okay, so far all the lines that we've drawn are considered to be opened, being that their ends haven't been tied together. You'll also be drawing your share of closed lines, especially when wanting those lines after the fact to be used to create something three-dimensional. Let's do this. With our next line, as we draw, the last place that we click will be directly on top of the first place we clicked. That'll close it up. Draw my line, then to finish things off, I'll put my mouse directly on top of that first vertex. When I'm in that location, I'll click. Then when the dialog opens, reading close spline, I'll say yes. You now have what would be considered to be a closed line. Now, lines, or really any shape in 3ds Max, by default is not set up to render unless told to do so. To see how that works, let's go ahead and create a smaller sphere directly in the middle of our closed line. Once that's on the screen, we'll head up to the toolbar on the right-hand side, clicking on our Render teapot. So there's our proof. Objects, as normal, will render, but shapes won't. Now you can change that, and here's how. Back in the command panel on the right, we'll open up the Modify column. We'll then return to having our line as being selected. Directly below the modifier stack, you see a closed category called Rendering. Go ahead and open that up. In there, we find options for both Enable in Renderer and Enable in Viewport. Go ahead and activate both those checkboxes. Now, once we've done that, if we go back to the Render teapot on the toolbar, you'll see the shape now indeed renders. Directly under the Enable options, you then have controls for things like thickness. We can also add a few additional sides to our line if we want that to be a little smoother in both the viewport and in our render. Once you've made those adjustments, let's go ahead and hit the Render teapot again. So that's pretty neat. We can use a plain old line for creating anything from maybe a rope in our scene to something like, let's say, an extension cord. Now, you'll typically not want to leave those Enable options on, so let's uncheck both those boxes and we'll close the Rendering tab. Let's now go ahead and delete both things in our scene, and we'll take our viewports back to a four-way configuration. Just like when creating 3D objects, lines can be drawn in any viewport. That viewport being drawn in, then determining the original layout or orientation of that line within your scene. Let's do this. Back on the right-hand side, we'll reactivate our line command. Now, using all three of our two-dimensional, or what they refer to as orthogonal views, we'll draw a line. Here's one in the front. There's one in the top. And I'll finish things off with one in the left. Let's now take our perspective view full screen and we'll take a look at what we have. Now, it honestly does look like a little bit of a rat's nest, but if we orbit around, we'll verify that the viewport we made the line in did indeed make a difference. Okay, let's go ahead and select all three lines using the Ctrl-A shortcut, and we'll hit delete. One last thing I'd like to mention about drawing lines. When you do so, my suggestion would be stay away from drawing those lines in the perspective view. Reason being is what you see isn't always what you get. Let's do this. We'll reactivate the line command, then draw in the perspective view the shape of an S. Now, before orbiting around, the S appears to be lying flat or perpendicular with the window. But check this out. Go to your orbit command and you'll see that it's not. You'll notice that the S, as you move around, is made flat with the grid in the viewport. So what originally looked to be standing up or perpendicular to the view definitely was not. That's something you got to be careful of when drawing your lines specifically in the perspective view. So that'll give you a few things to keep in mind when creating lines. It'll honestly probably take a little practice in order to be able to draw them well. But because they do serve such an important purpose in Max, both for modeling three-dimensional objects and as paths for things in your scene to follow, Taking the time to practice making them will definitely pay big dividends in the long run.